All right, every Sunday talking Red Sox with Nick Friar, New Bedford Standard Times. All right, Nick, the big news this week, of course, David Price has some elbow injury, uncomfortable feelings, as I try to drop my paper here. Good news, though, is that he won't need Tommy John surgery, and they say a timeline of maybe 2 weeks. How scared were Red Sox fans when they heard the initial news of David Price? How scared should they be today?
Terrified, and honestly, they shouldn't feel much different. I'm not expecting him to make it through this whole season. It's, when you have any discomfort in your form, and especially when you got to get a second opinion like that, red flags all over the board. And his elbow hurting, his forearm hurting, that means his shoulder's getting tired. And if your shoulder's getting tired throughout the course of the season, you're using that every day. If that's not there and not ready to go, he's in big trouble.
All right, so David Price says doctors say that he has a unique elbow, and he's had some wear and tear and some discomfort in spring trainings past. You've pitched at a high level. How important is the elbow to pitching, and can he be a unique situation where maybe his elbow is different than most other people?
Your elbow is everything, just as much as your shoulder is. I mean, if you're going and throwing it at 95, but you're feeling pain every time you try and go full tilt when you're rotating your shoulder, you're not going to. It's just the same thing as hurting your shoulder. I mean, it's going to slow you down. It's going to cause you to not go as hard as possible. I would argue the shoulder's more painful, more of an issue, but whenever I had elbow pain, it really held me back and significantly dropped my velocity. So it'll make a huge difference in how he pitches.
All right, you alluded to it just before. How does this impact the amount of starts and innings? Because if there's one thing you can say about David Price, he logs 200-plus innings a season. How many starts, how many innings do you think he logs with this elbow issue?
I'm going to say he's going to throw 20 starts. 20 starts.
20 starts.
That's being generous. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 15 at the end of it all. I can't imagine him having the durability to make it all the way through. Where that elbow is going to be an issue constantly throughout the year. And I think to pick a number for how many innings, I would probably say somewhere around maybe 150. That might be a little high, but I'm thinking he's going to average something around 6 innings to start max.
All right, and last one on Price. Long term, when you look at the length and the amount of money in this deal, should he just have the surgery now, maybe if he doesn't need it, because there's so many years remaining on his deal? And ultimately, will we look back in 4 or 5 years and say, this was the beginning of the end for Price, making it a bad deal?
I would definitely be in favor of getting the surgery if it's something that they think at all is a possibility down the road. And to address if it's a mistake, I mean, it certainly looks like it at this point. But we saw what happened with Lackey. I mean, he wasn't good. After his first year, he struggled the next year because he had arm issues. Then he missed the whole year with the arm after the arm surgery, and then he came back and was strong. So maybe we'll see that from Price this time around. If I was a betting man, I would say it's going to not look good down the road. And he's definitely not taking the option to leave. He's going to stick around for sure.
All right, speaking of soreness, Hanley Ramirez no longer playing in the WBC because of some shoulder issues. We know he said he wouldn't play first base, just stick at DH. How serious is this with Hanley?
Well, he was getting work done on his arm before every game last year. He always had, I forget what it was called, but it was almost like, not shock therapy, that's not what it was at all, but it was, he had ultrasound, that's what it was, on his shoulder before the game, and you could see it kind of spazzing out every time. He's had issues with his shoulder. I mean, and when you get all bigger and more bulked up, because he got a little bit bigger, that's the concern. Is he going to be tight? Is he going to be able to move around as well? So I don't expect it to be an issue like Price, but it will be a nagging issue throughout the season.
All right, big year upcoming for Mookie Betts, second in MVP voting last year, and something kind of under the radar this week. He's not up until 2020. His contract, woefully underpaid for a guy who's second in MVP voting, but still on his rookie deal. He'll get arbitration next year, but the Red Sox kind of just maintained his current salary when they could have given him a bump that he and his agent didn't really like. Dave Dombrowski said it wasn't contentious, but what do you make of the early contract squabble here between the Red Sox and Mookie?
You got to take care of your guys. And when it's somebody like Mookie who's part of the future and part of the present for that matter, and he's one of the big three, the killer bees, who's not represented by Scott Boras. You've got to take care of that guy. You've got to lock him up. I'm not saying they should go and extend his deal now, but they need something more friendly for Betts. And I don't blame him for being a little insulted by it. I mean, he did a lot for the team. They wouldn't have been where they were without him. I know we always talk about Ortiz last year, but Betts was the best offensive player on that team at the end of the day.
All right, I want to talk about the Red Sox bullpen. Joe Kelly, a guy highly touted coming here as a starter, moved to the bullpen, spent some time in Pawtucket. a guy that's been kind of all over the map, but he still has some gas if he can control his pitches. Where do you see the development of him this year?
I really like what I've seen so far in the spring from him. I expect him to be that seventh inning guy when you got Thornburg as your 8, and then Barnes is going to kind of be more, when there's a mess, he's going to come in the game. But I really like what I've seen from Kelly so far. As long as he can either locate more or rely on his movement, because he has some great movement on his fastball, and I wouldn't mind even if he took a little bit off so we could locate it a little bit better, because as much as velocity is always what everybody wants to see, if he's throwing still, instead of 98, if he's throwing 94 and he's got movement and he's locating well, he's going to be much more effective. But I like what I've seen so far, and I see a lot of good things coming for Kelly this year.
All right, good stuff. Nick Friar talking Red Sox every Sunday on the Sports Wrap. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks.